Okay, the next completing this square, but before we learn completing the square, we need to learn just that one step and what that means. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and look at this. This is x plus 7 to the second power. I'm going to multiply it out, and then we're going to look at the long way to do this and the short way to do this so we can go backwards. Okay, normally if you were distributing, you would do x times x is x squared. X times 7 is 7x. And then remember, we would multiply the 7 now. 7 times x is 7x, and then 7 times 7 is 49. And then we got x squared plus 14x plus 49. Okay, I'm going to come back to this in a second, but I'm going to multiply this one more time so we can see that the pattern still works. I'll do the box this time because some of you use your box to multiply these. Okay, if I'm doing the box, I'm doing x minus 8 times x minus 8. X times x is x to the second. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x. Negative 8 times x, negative 8x. Negative 8 times negative 8 is 64. And then when I write the trinomial, that is my answer. I have x to the second. If I do minus 8x minus another 8x, I get minus 16x. And then I put the positive 64 at the end. Okay, now when you're squaring, there's a pattern. And if you see the pattern, it makes it easier to square them. Okay, so this was x plus 7 squared. I can tell that the last number is 7 times 7. Now the 14 is actually 7 plus 7, which is kind of a nice pattern. Now let's look at the next one. This was x minus 8 squared. Now if I do minus 8 times minus 8, I get the last number. And if I do minus 8 plus minus 8, I get the middle number. So you can use this pattern to square binomials without doing the work. So let's look at this one. Now this is x plus 5 squared. Since it's x, the first term is going to be x squared. Okay, now the x term is going to be the number plus itself. So since this is 5, I'm going to do 5 plus 5, and it should be the x term, so I'm going to get 10x. Okay, now the last term is this number squared or times itself, so 7 times 7. So since I have 5, I'm going to do 5 times 5. So if I were to multiply that, I should get this polynomial, and the reason I got this is because x times x is x squared. This is 5. If I do 5 plus 5, I get 10. If I do 5 times 5, I get 25. So the pattern works. I'm going to do the next one the same. I'm going to use the pattern rather than multiplying it out. Since it's an x, x squared. Since this is minus 10, if I do minus 10 minus 10, I get minus 20x. And if I do minus 10 times minus 10, I get positive 100. So this should be my final answer. And again, how did I get that? I did minus 10 plus minus 10 here, and I did minus 10 times minus 10 to get the last term. Okay, let me go ahead and figure these ones out, and I'm not going to do the work. I'm just going to fill in the blanks. Okay, x, so it's x squared. If it's minus 6, if I do minus 6 minus 6, I get minus 12x. If I do minus 6 times minus 6, I get positive 36. And the last term is always positive. Okay, let's try the next one. Okay, it starts with the x, so x to the second. Minus 2 is going to be minus 4x. Minus 2 times minus 2 will be positive 4. X plus 3 to the second. Let's start with x to the second. Since it's a plus 3, if I do 3x plus 3x, I get 6x. And if I do 3 times 3, I get 9. So one last one, x plus 1 squared. X squared, 1 plus 1, 2x. 1 times 1, 1. And if you forget, you can always multiply it out the long way using the box or by distributing. Okay, now completing the square is when we try to figure out in this expression what number goes here so I can factor it into a perfect square. Okay, so I know that if I do, for example, on this one, I did 3 plus 3 is 6, and I had 3 times 3 is here. So I'm going to look at this one. I want to think, what do I add to itself to get 14? Oh, it's 14 divided by 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7, so this is 7 plus 7. If I do 7 times 7, I'm going to get the number that should go here, and it's always a positive number. Okay, that's completing the square, is filling in the blank with the 49 right there. The second step says, then factor into binomial square. A binomial square is this. This is a binomial, there's two terms, and this is the square. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back in the parentheses. Squared. Since it was x, it must be x. Since I did 7 plus 7 and 7 times 7, it's going to be a positive, and it's going to be a 7 here. That's my binomial square. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, let's see. This is 12, or it's minus 12. Divided by 2, I get 6. So this is negative 6 minus 6. If I do negative 6 times negative 6, I get 36. That's completing the square. And then factor into a binomial square is going back to figuring out the parentheses. Since it starts with x squared, it's x. Since this is a minus, I'm going to put a minus. And then because I use 6 as my number, it's x minus 6 squared. So if I were to multiply this out, I would get this. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, let's see. You can either think, what do I add to itself to get 8? Or 8 divided by 2. Either way, it's 4 and 4. Actually, it's minus 4 and minus 4, but we can figure that out later. Okay, 4 times 4 is 16, so to complete the square, I add 16. In parentheses, it's going to be x. Since this is a minus, I put minus. And since I used 4 times 4 to get 16, this is going to be 4 squared. Okay, I'm going to keep going. X squared plus 18x, let's see. 18 divided by 2 is 9, so this is 9 plus 9. If I do 9 times 9, this should be an 81, and that's completing the square. The binomial is x. Since this is a plus, I'm going to put a plus, and then it was 9 was the number I was using to find all the other values. Let's keep going. 2 more. See, to get 10, 10 divided by 2 is 5, so it was 5 plus 5. 5 times 5 means to complete the square, I add 25. And then when I factor it, it's x. Since this is a positive, it's plus 5 squared. And if I multiplied it out, that would be the answer I get. Okay, let's look at the 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. That's completing the square. For the binomial, it's x. Since this is a minus, minus 1 squared. That's my binomial square. Okay, go ahead and try the next one. And the practice problems, remember, this is really just practice for when we're going to add a step and solve by completing the square.